Welcome back. This is Miss Hanley again with your third distance learning video lesson. Today you participate in a close read of Just Say No. Just to remind you what our distance learning anchor question is, you can find this also in your distance learning student work packet. Your question is, how did women contribute to the fight for independence and how should they be remembered? Remember to keep this question in the back of your mind as you're going through your packet and through your lessons. For today's lesson, you will need the following. You will need your Just Say No packet, a pen or a pencil, and some paper to create your Foursquare model. We'll now begin with engaging the reader and reviewing our learning targets for today. Today's learning targets are as follows. I can describe how colonial women challenged the British's unfair treatment of the colonies. And two, I can cite evidence from this text to support the answers to my questions. Take 1 minute now to take back out your piece of paper and create your Foursquare model. Remember, your Foursquare model should have main idea, details, vocabulary, and author's purpose or point of view. You can start now. – 30 more seconds. Wrapping up in 10. All right, let's move forward. So we're now going to focus on our vocabulary portion of our Foursquare model. Please add the word evidence to your Foursquare organizer. This should be a very familiar word, but just in case you forgot, evidence is proof in the text that answers a question or supports our thinking. Go ahead and jot this down in your Foursquare model now. Now we'll begin reading Just Say No with a close read. Now remember, the purpose of today's reading is to work towards our bigger idea, which is our project for this packet. You have a choice to choose from three options. You may either write a letter, a speech, or an essay. So as you're reading today, think about what ideas and what you've learned that you can include in your final project. For our first read, you have 6 silent solo minutes to read the text to yourself. Our purpose for our first read is you'll be able to explain how colonial women protested the British government. You will need your Foursquare model. Remember to annotate the text as you're reading by filling this in. Of course, your text. And just another reminder, when you're annotating your text, you want to underline major points, circle any key words or phrases that are confusing or are unknown, question marks, and always writing in the margins to clarify statements. Take 6 minutes now to silently solo read the text to yourself and annotate. Right. 2-minute warning. All right, so that is 6 minutes. However, if you're not done, you can pause here and keep reading until you are complete. Now, for the second read, our purpose is you'll be able to find the gist of paragraphs and answer text dependent questions. This is where I will be thinking out loud and monitoring you. So you will need again your graphic organizer and your text. So, so for our first read, we're going to chunk our second read, we're going to chunk it up into paragraphs by two. So we're going to read the first two paragraphs together. Again, I will be annotating, so make sure that you're also making sure that your paper looks like my screen as well. During the American Revolution, women were not allowed to vote or fight in the army, but they found other ways to support the colonial fight for independence. I'm going to underline this here because again, we are talking about how did women help with the war, and this is clearly stating that they still wanted to support or help fight the colonies get independence. So that's an important detail. For the first time, many women found a political voice. Some wrote letters and poems about politics, sending them anonymously to local newspapers. I'm going to actually circle this word because I think that anonymous means like when you don't have your name. So when you are saying something, but you are not saying who you are. So when they sent paper, or they sent letters to the newspapers without telling them who they were. That's anonymously. One writer criticized colonial men for not doing more to oppose unfair British laws. Her poem ended with the line, "Let the daughters of liberty nobly arise." Women were calling on each other to stand up and do their part. That's very important. That tells me that women were writing these letters because they wanted others to stand up and share their voice so that they could actually be heard in this fight for independence. I'm going to underline that. And I'm going to put an exclamation point because that is very important. To fight the British, these Daughters of Liberty used the power they had, the power to choose what to buy. So now I can come up with my gist. So my gist is women found different ways to fight in the War of Independence. I wrote that down because I saw several instances in here where they're talking about women and what they were doing. So again, here they were writing letters. They were saying stand up, but also they were finding some ways, even though they were not allowed to vote or fight, to show their voice. So here's our first question. How did women fight the British? A, by making sure they voted. B, by writing letters and poetry. C, by telling their husbands what to do. Or D, by making weapons. Well, I know the section talks nothing about weapons. I'm going to cross that out. Also, again, they weren't saying her husbands do anything. I don't see that word or remember hearing that, so I'm going to cross that out as well. Cross out things that I know I did not hear. I did hear about them voting, but that doesn't say like in what they did. I did see that they actually wrote letters, so I'm actually going to circle B. Thumbs up if you've also got B. Great job. Let's move on. Second, read paragraphs 3 and 4. The Stamp Act was one of the unfair laws women fought. I remember seeing that and hearing that before. I remember that this was talking about saying people had to pay money to buy certain things of paper. So I'm going to circle that. To raise money, the British government passed a law saying that colonial citizens had to pay a tax on every piece of printed paper they used. So I was correct. This said they had to pay extra money if they wanted to buy a piece of paper to be used. Everything from newspapers and marriage license to playing cards were taxed. Many colonists felt that this Stamp Act was unfair. This tells me again what is going on and how that they were feeling. So I'm going to underline that as well because that's an important detail. Many women, among them those calling themselves Daughters of Liberty, agreed to boycott British goods to protest the Stamp Act. So boycott is another way of saying you're refusing to purchase or refusing to do something or buy something. These women refused to use British cloth to make their clothes. Some women even refused to get married if their fiancés applied for a marriage license with a stamp on it. Oh my goodness, that's pretty interesting. Eventually, the boycott was successful. Okay, that tells me that what they did, meaning not choosing to buy these paper items, it actually worked. Successful means it was good. When British merchants began to lose money, merchants is just another way of saying someone who was involved in a trade, so like store owners or people who use that. When British merchants began to lose money because of the boycotts, the British, government repealed or eliminated the Stamp Act. So I don't have to circle that because my author already told me that repealed means eliminated or they got rid of the Stamp Act. Perfect. Now let's move forward with our gist. So again, gist again is what the texts are mostly about. So I kept hearing boycott, not doing things, they didn't want to pay tax. So I'm guessing my gist is women boycotted the Stamp Act by refusing to use British goods. So again, I kept hearing the idea of boycott, meaning they refused to buy it, and that was because of the Stamp Act. Now let's go to our text dependent question. How did women help change the Stamp Act? They didn't buy things from the British. They destroyed the stamps they purchased. They made and sold their own stamps, or they wrote letters to the British government. So again, I'm first going to look at things that I know I did not see that I cannot for certain say was in the text. I can prove with evidence. Remember, we're looking at evidence today. So I'm going to automatically cross out. It didn't say anything about destroying it. Nope, it didn't say that. So I'm going to cross that out. I also didn't see anything about them writing a letter to say, okay, I don't agree with this. No, I'm going to cross that one out. So now we're down to A and C. They didn't buy things from the British, or they made and sold their own stamps. So it says they made their own things, but they didn't make stamps. They actually made clothes. So that's a trick one. So this wasn't it. So, A. If you also got A, give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Pat yourself in the back. Good. The women changed this act because it actually did not buy things from the British. Excellent job. Let's move forward to the next paragraphs. After the Stamp Act was repealed, the British put another tax on the colonial citizens as well. They're probably getting really angry now. Now, everyday items such as paint, tea, paper, shoes, and clothes were being taxed. Well, I'm going to underline that. This again tells me some things that the government is doing to probably make some colonists really angry. Once again, the Daughters of Liberty, okay, I'm seeing this idea come up again, said no to British goods. Wow, okay, that's actually what our title is called. It says just say no. So again, they're saying no to British goods, meaning they don't want to use them. I can see where that comes in handy now. Women who had once bought British fabric now began to spin thread and weave cloth at home. They were proud to wear their homespun clothes as a symbol of their strength. Whoa, okay. They were saying, like, this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to do it on my own. And by wearing this, I'm showing that I am strong and I'm going to fight against the British. The Daughters of Liberty were standing up to the British. Then came the Tea Act of 1773. I always, and the dates are usually important because they also let us know what's happening in time. So I want to underline that. This law allowed British merchants to sell tea in the colonies for less money than anyone else. Many colonists saw it as an attempt by the British government to force other tea merchants out of business. Once the other tea sellers were shut down, the British would raise the prices on their own tea. To the colonists, this was unacceptable. I'm seeing this paragraph about another thing the British government is trying to do to make sure that they are the only ones that's controlling them. Remember, they're trying to be free from them, and they're still doing these different things to make sure that they are not free. Patriotic women now refuse to buy tea. Patriotic, I know I've heard that word like patriots, and I remember like, okay, patriotic. So I'm guessing that patriotic has something to do with having a lot of strong feeling or support for your country. Like a lot of say, oh, you're a patriot, patriotic. That's what it probably means. Because they could not grow English tea in America, they used local plants to make Liberty tea. So again, we're talking about what did the women do? Okay, to help, they used local plants to make their own tea. Using raspberry and mint leaves, verbena, and lemon balm, even roses, violets, and goldenrod flowers, they brewed delicious hot tea. Now, let's get down to our gist. Women found other ways to say no to British goods. And I saw that also up here, but I'm seeing this constant pattern of they're just saying, no, I don't want to do that. I don't agree with you. So they said no to goods. And this time it was a Tea Act. Now let's go to our text dependent question. How did women challenge other taxes from the British government? A. They made uniforms for the colonial soldiers to fight the British. B. They burned taxed clothing and dumped out taxed tea. C. They talked British merchants into reducing the prices of taxed items. Or D. They made their own clothes and tea to avoid paying taxes. This time, I want you to figure out on your own what do you think the correct answer is, and then I'll show you my own thinking. Take about 10 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to first start by eliminating those answer choices that I know that cannot be it because I did not see or hear that in my text. So, how did they challenge it? Okay, what did they do against them? Okay, the keyword there is challenge. So, what did they do against it? I don't see anything about them burning anything, so I'm going to cross that out. I also know that they didn't talk to them to say, okay, can you lower your prices? So that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to cross that out as well. So either they made uniforms for colonial soldiers to fight the British, or they made their own clothes. It talks about soldiers, I thought a little bit, but I don't remember in here. But I do know that they made their own clothes, and that was in this text. That was in the other paragraphs, but also here it says that they made tea. Bingo. D. If you also got D, give yourself a pat on the back. Excellent job. All right. In our very last paragraph, paragraph 8. While colonial men fought the British with guns, women fought them with money. When they said no to British goods, they made the British government less able to pay its soldiers in the colonies. That's actually like a cause and effect. Because they said no to this, the effect was they made the British government less able. So they could not do that. That's going to hurt them. Some people say that in the fight for freedom, the decisions women made when buying goods may have been as important as the decisions men made when they picked up their guns. So now they're comparing how women helped compared to men. While men actually were using physical things to fight the war, women actually did other ways and they hurt them in their pockets. Now let's look at our gist. Colonial women used money to fight the British. Yes, again, this is talking about how women hurt them the most, and how they hurt them the most was, of course, when they let them money. Your gist should include what this is mostly about. Now for our last text-dependent question for our close read for this section. What effect did women's actions have on the British government? A, they forced the government to give them the right to vote. They showed the government that wars could be won without violence. They kept British soldiers from having new clothing and tea, or they prevented the government from making as much money. Go ahead and answer this question on your own, and let's see if you can come with the correct answer as I did. So this one, I was stuck between B and D. Because it says yes, but it says they show them that it could be one without violence. But at the end of the day, it is a war. In war, there may be some violence. But what we're looking at, the best answer is going to be D. Because again, this heads back to our gist, but also the text supports that. Patting your back if you got the correct answer as well. Now take some time to go ahead and fill out, if you have not already done so, to fill out the rest of your four-square model. Our main idea of our text, what the text is mainly about. You want to focus on the who, the when, the where, the what, and the why. Some of those key details to help you figure out the main details. Remember, details support the main idea. And also our author's purpose. Why did the author write this text? To inform us, to persuade, or entertain. When you're ready, you can move on. Now, for independent practice today, you are going to answer the following questions. Take a picture of your answers, or you can write it in your class notebook on Teams section. So I'm briefly going to show the slides, because then you can always pause and come back to our questions. Question 1, this is a part A, part B question. Which sentence describes the central idea of the text? Answer choices are there. Take a quick look at them. Again, you're going to write your final answers on a sheet of paper or post them in Teams. 2, which detail from the text best supports the answer to part A? 3, which alternate title expresses the main idea of the article? 4, which of the following describes how the text is organized? And 5, how does the article help readers understand the connection between the actions of women and the colony's fight against the British? Again, please write your answers down on a sheet of paper or type them up in your class notebook under class notes on Teams. Our exit ticket, I want you to think about the following questions. You can feel free to share these out as well. What new information did you learn about the role of women during the fight for independence? And 2, after reading Just Say No, what could you infer about why women wanted to help with the fight for independence? All right, that's it for today's lesson. As always, you can follow me on the Excel webpage and also stay connected with me on Microsoft Teams. Be safe.